Unfiltered podcast. Honest and uncensored opinions. With Larry Dickerson and Michael Panetta. And now, the Unfiltered podcast.
The Unfiltered podcast is being brought to you today by the folks at Focusrite. With a full line of audio interfaces, they can make you sound top-notch and professional. So check out Focusrite.com today and see what they have that'll work for you. Hey guys, what is going on? Welcome to the podcast, Unfiltered. And of course, you know, as we got the new name. So we are on episode 19, I believe, Larry. If I'm wrong, please correct me.
I believe you're correct.
So how are you doing today?
Under the weather.
Under the weather. Well, I appreciate you coming out here and sitting
Well,
here.
let's not BS. I'm here for John, not you.
Well, without further ado, let's go ahead and get right into it and welcome our very, very special guest to the podcast, Mr. Jon Rettinger. Jon, how you doing today?
I am doing well. Thank you guys for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Oh man, we are so super excited to have you here and chit chat with you just about life in general a little bit and talk about YouTube and Technobuffalo and where you've been and where you're going and where's everything going. So let's dive right into this. And I wanted to talk to you about we're all on camera. We have everything edited and we're going through all that and everybody sees us and we put the face on where we live and breathe tech. Is there anything that we don't know about Jon Rettinger outside of technology? Now, you can't use the Lakers because that doesn't count.
No, that's a boring one. Don't. Speaking of, so people don't know about me is I am probably way more boring than people expect.
Yeah.
I head out of work, I go home, hang out with my wife and son, go to bed. I don't do much of anything else anymore, unfortunately. I did, though. This is something I haven't said. I did used to do stand-up comedy years ago, which I'd like to start doing again.
Really?
Really?
Which might surprise people because I'm like the least funny person in the world. But I did it for a few years, and there's nothing more embarrassing than getting your friends going to one of your shows, and all they do is just echo you the entire time. But that's a fun fact people might not know.
Wow,
I didn't know that.
Wow, that is awesome.
Was that before you started doing anything on YouTube?
Yeah, way before.
Oh.
How old were you?
Way before.
How old were you?
I was in my early 20s when I started doing it. I'm a grizzled 34 now, so a long time ago.
Now, were you like at any local clubs or like?
Yes, I was in. It was when I was in college, so I was in upstate New York. So I did it at some local clubs there, and I did it at like one or two clubs here in California. But that was it. Never went anywhere. I wasn't very funny. If anything, I think it taught me to be more comfortable with have a thicker skin.
No,
I'll tell you one thing.
Mean
commenters on YouTube are nothing compared to people yelling at you on stage.
Yeah, no, I can understand that. I can definitely understand that. So anyway, wow, comedy. You know what? That's actually really cool that you get the thick skin. So that's kind of a nice thing to have going into to what we do today, because it is definitely a sorry about that. That was me on the back end there. So it's definitely given you a interesting perspective into the whole YouTube and dealing with people on YouTube and whatnot. So when you watch when I used to watch your earlier videos, there was no mention of having a girlfriend / fiance, now your wife, when you were doing your videos. Was that her choice to say, do not talk to me about that? Or was that the Jon Rettinger, which I did the same thing. I was a little embarrassed of being on YouTube, so I kind of left things out.
Yeah, I didn't tell her. My girlfriend at the time was now my wife, said I was doing videos for like a good, probably like 10 months. I didn't say a word to anybody. My neighbors, I'm sure, thought I was doing porn. Back then, YouTube was just cat videos and guys getting hit in the balls. Right. And I had like a camera set up like at my desk.
That's absolutely hilarious. So you jump onto this idea of going onto YouTube and starting to do videos and whatnot. What was your inspiration to do that?
Sure.
Beyond the idea of of just trying something new and going through the
Sure.
proverbial steps.
I'm of the mindset, and I know people disagree, but back when I started in like 2006, 2007, I had 0.0 foresight of what YouTube was going to turn into.
Hmm.
And I think anybody back then that claims they knew is like 100% full of shit. Um, it sort of caught, I think, at least from my perspective, caught a lot of people off guard. I was looking to get a new computer. I love to do research on tech. I used to go walk around Best Buy just to relax and kind of have fun. And I wanted to get a video camera. And I wanted to do research on one. I figured, hey, I'll do videos on my new computer. It'll give me an excuse to buy a camera and do some research on it. And that's honestly how it started. If I had any inkling that this was going to turn into anything, I would have picked a damn better username than my old AIM screen name from middle school.
That's hilarious. So that was the as everybody probably knows, the John Four Lakers of the
Yeah,
which
I can never
YouTube world.
change at all. Will come with me until I'm like 80. Hope
Well,
I don't
you
change
know.
sports teams. I'll be screwed.
That's the way that it that's the way that it goes, I think, with a lot of us. We didn't start the YouTube thing to say, okay, this is going to be the brand and this is how we're going to do it, and we're going to have this cool name of whatever, it is. So jumping into that idea of a name, I did see a little bit on your videos, on the two videos about Behind the Buffalo and going through that. And someone asked, or it may not have been in that, but it may have been in something else. Someone asked you the idea of coming up with the name Technobuffalo. And obviously, you get the techno and the buffalo put together. Where did you come up with that name?
All right, so here's the honest, no bullshit answer. I used to tell, I'm just the podcast is called Unfiltered, so I might as well be. I wanted a name. First of all the good names were taken. You ever tried to find a URL? It is like next to impossible.
Right.
My wife was like, "How about you get Techno Talk?" I was like, "Really? Do you think that's not taken?" Or how about like technologynews.com? I'm like, listen. I wanted something that had techno, and I thought it was important.
Right.
The Buffalo was just super random. It was easy to spell. It was identifiable, and I thought I was a marketing guy before I started doing this. I thought I could like brand it if I ever did subsites, make it other Buffalo stuff. That is the honest to God answer. It was an available URL. Is really what it boils down to.
Interesting. Well, I mean, the idea of and it's like I don't know. Did you come up with the idea of leading the herd after the fact? Like, was that?
Oh yeah, 100%.
Oh, okay.
100%. Like for no foresight at all. I realize now in retrospect how like I was so stupid to think I could run a business. I mean, I was so naive to think that I could, and that was probably the best asset I had at the time.
Wow. Okay.
What did you go to school for? You mentioned college. Did you go for business management or?
No, I got my undergraduate degree as a liberal arts degree. I was honestly prepared for zero in the world. I had the idea for Technobuffalo, and I figured I'll try and get it financed. So I went to some venture capital pitch meetings, and I pitched my business with no business background, and I got super laughed at, like really, like very, very big laughed at. Not the kind of laughs I was going for when I was doing the comedy stuff. So I waited for the guy who laughed the loudest, and I was like, listen, like what can I do? I must have been like 27 at the time. And he said, you either get older or go back and get your MBA. So I went back and got my MBA at night while I was working on the business plan for Technobuffalo and working at my old job, and that sort of gave me a bit of more of a business background. Because I was freaking clueless.
Wow. I mean, that is a scary thing because you sit there and go through the idea of starting up a business, and when you start that business, and again, these are things you learn that you have a business plan. What's your 5-year plan, your 10-year plan, your 15? These are things that you sit there and go, okay, this is what I want to do, and then it's like, okay, well, what if you're super successful and you're going to build across the world, or what if you're going to stay local? Do you want to do that? It's almost like you have to predict where you're going to be and where you're going to go when it all starts and when it all is in the middle, and almost like, what are you going to do when the company ends? It's like, I don't want to think about that, but you have to.
No, you're 100% correct. When you write a business plan, you're pretty much just making shit up.
Yeah.
Here's what we're worth. Here's what we're worth. Here's what our traffic's going to be. Here's our exit plan. I mean, you have no idea what the future is going to. I mean, you have no idea what the future's going to hold.
Right. Because you get to that idea that's like, we're going to be super successful. This is what we're going to do. And it's almost like a pipe dream. You know? And,
yeah, no, it is a pipe dream.
But there's nothing wrong with that.
No, I'll never forget. It was in 2009. Sitting with my girlfriend at the time, being like, listen, I'm going to leave my job. It's 2009 at like the peak of the down economy. That I was leaving my decently paying job to make videos. And then even worse, I had to tell my future mother-in-law that I was going to leave my job to make videos for a living. I will, my entire life, I will always remember those conversations. And then to those of you out there that might be thinking about starting your own business, you know, you look at a lot of final products right now. You don't realize where they were to get to that point.
Yeah.
When I started Technobuffalo, I raised $40,000, and it was mostly from friends and family. And that was it. That was every cent that we had to start the business. We were supposed to launch in September of 2009. I had already quit my job. I had some money coming in from YouTube, but it wasn't much. Mm-hmm. And we burned through almost all of our startup capital. We had maybe about $15,000 left. We were supposed to launch in September. We went live in September for about 45 seconds. And then the site completely crashed. It didn't crash because of crazy traffic. Right. It crashed because I didn't know enough to supervise our developer. I didn't know enough to check. I didn't know enough to see what type of server configuration we were using. I did. Mm-hmm. And me not knowing almost doomed the entire business before it started. We had burned through our 100% of our startup capital. I burned a lot of like personal, sort of like in social equity by telling people about the site, and then it wasn't there.
Right.
We didn't go live until December, almost 2 months later. I used to be able to sleep no problem. Now I had developed crazy insomnia from those few months. So there's like, you got to go through a lot of adversity and be prepared for a lot of adversity. And then there's no guarantee of success at all.
Right. Was that idea of the website now, and this is the thing, it's so funny because when that time was coming up, it was the idea of, you know, maybe branching off of YouTube a little bit to be a little bit more sustainable and serious about what you want to do. Now, we've all heard your vision of, you know, just where you really want to go with it. You really want to be a serious news guy and a serious tech guy, but at the same time, you don't want to be too serious. You want to have fun with that. Now, when you first started the website, did you have the idea that you would almost be like a news / YouTube, like better than YouTube? This vision of being able to say, you can go here, you can post your content, you can do all that. It almost seemed like that's what you were trying to do in a grand scheme of things.
I would love to be able to say yes to that. It's sort of it evolved kind of into that. You know, we like to be able to sort of be independent. We like to be able to provide our own news, and we sort of embrace that independence. It was more of a natural transition. And Technobuffalo as it exists now would have never existed. I remember when I had about 10,000 subscribers. I used to read tech sites all the time. I reached out to Engadget. I reached out to Gizmodo. I reached out to a few other tech sites that were big at the time. And I could see there was a big gap in video. Video wasn't being taken seriously. They were just giving a review on a phone, and they weren't sort of talking about what the phone could do or showing anything dynamic on it. So I offered my services, and everybody turned me down. Response from anybody.
All right.
So I figured I'm gonna try it myself. And that was sort of the fuel that started the whole thing. Was I wanted to have more personality in those bigger sites. I knew I was never going to compete, at least for a very long time, necessarily traffic numbers. So I'm not owned by AOL. I'm not owned by CBS or now Fox. Mm-hmm. So I was going to be a long sort of road to go, and you never know what could happen when you sort of embark on a path like that.
Right. Were you contacted? Now we're jumping ahead a little bit here. When you started getting a little bit bigger with the Technobuffalo, were you contacted by news stations here on those MSNBCs, or did you reach out to them and say, hey, or you had a contact to get to that point to be able to appear on there?
I never knew how that worked. See people on TV, I'd be like, how? Mm-hmm. I was able to find someone I knew that had been on TV and ask how they did it.
Okay.
And they did it through a publicist. So I found a publicist that had those connections, and was able to sort of use his network to try and get us on the air.
Oh, nice. Okay. That's
So
really cool.
that's been the way that I've in the past. Now I can sort of reach out directly to the producers, at least some of them. But now 90% of the time we're doing network stuff, it's always through a publicist.
Right. Well, that sounds like more of a hassle than anything.
It is definitely a big hassle.
Yeah.
Takes a lot of time too. It's and it's sort of nerve wracking.
Right.
Do you see spikes? Like if you go on CNN and talk about an iPhone or something, you don't see anything?
Like from traffic?
Yeah.
No, we don't see big traffic. Actually, where it becomes really helpful is sort of talking to advertisers. Like, hey, we're on CNBC, we're on Fox News. What does sort of frighten me when I do those things is when they ask me stock market questions, because I can see as I'm talking the market's moving based on what I'm saying, and I am grossly unqualified to move any markets at all. So it just goes to show that the people on CNBC, the talking heads, have very little idea what they're talking about. I'm starting to realize the more I do it.
Right. That's scary. That
It is
really
frightening.
scary. Wow. So with that idea of being something that can move the needle and do all of that, when did it occur to you that you really wanted to leave your house and have an office to go to? When was that? Was there a point, or were you like, no, this is where it's going, this is what I have to do?
It was sort of twofold. I realized I couldn't be as productive as I wanted to be working from home. And also I couldn't find any resemblance of a work-life balance working from home. If I was home, I was always working, which wasn't fair to my wife. I wanted us to grow, and I wanted to be able to eventually hire folks to help, and I couldn't do that in working out of my kitchen, essentially.
Mm-hmm.
So that was when I sort of made the decision that I was going to work to get towards an office. That took about a year and a half to try and make sure it was financially feasible, and also going to be long-term beneficial. I wasn't going to expend what we had to get an office that was only going to end up doing us for spending so much money to try and afford the place.
Right. Now, did you want to make Technobuffalo an extension of your YouTube channel, or do you really just plan on eventually, and my guess is, and I'm only assuming here, I'm going to ask you,
Sure.
Obviously, is Technobuffalo now more of a solid moneymaker over what YouTube would have done for you at this point? If you think so?
Yeah, no, I'm happy to answer that question. And in fact, I filmed a video last week that'll go up either this week or next week, where I sort of pull back the complete veil on the company, talk about where our money comes from. I give our traffic numbers, including screenshots from Google Analytics, to make sure that those numbers are being, properly shared. So no, I'm happy to answer those questions. So for the first question, I guess, I've been trying over the past year and a half to make Technobuffalo less of an extension of me personally. I don't feel that it's a list of the business to ever be so reliant on me or one face. So I've been trying to sort of make other people be seen. I have the voice of the writers be more prominent than sort of my face on there. And for the first about 3.5 years of Technobuffalo's existence, the YouTube channel was a primary revenue draw.
Right.
But since then, the site does probably about 140% of what YouTube does for us.
Wow.
Which is sort of a very interesting transition.
Well, that's actually nice to know, because I've always said the idea that and people laugh at me when I say this, but YouTube isn't going to be around forever, and it's going to come to that point where someone's going to replace them, and people aren't going to see it, and I really hate to just go down this route, but you can already see it with people who are on YouTube that feel that views are going down because it's YouTube's fault. Views are going down, money's going down because of YouTube. And at the end of the day, YouTube is technically a pyramid scheme, almost. You open a channel, you get people to follow. Those people tell people to follow, and you follow and follow and follow. Your videos get views on views on views, and then that's, well, yeah, you know how it works. And
Sure, of course.
the idea that they're sitting there going, oh, no, my content's fine. It's YouTube. When you can go back and you can see, from an outside looking in, you can go, no, your content is going downhill, and you're getting too comfortable. And
Yeah, no, I agree.
now with that, people are going alternate routes such as Indiegogo. What are your feelings on that style of I don't want to say donation but marketing for a channel on something like YouTube?
Sure.
So
So first, I'm happy
sustainable.
I'm happy to hear you. I'm happy to hear you say that. I think that a lot of people are guilty of complacency, and certainly I know sometimes I am as well. And I think to sort of have a nice self-reflection is important for anybody. But I do sometimes take issue with people that complain about YouTube directly. YouTube is a free service that provides us revenue. Free. And I have a difficult time sort of raging against YouTube for slow processing times when, and I get they're making money off my content, but so am I.
Right.
So it's not necessarily a paid service. So I do sometimes, have a little bit of umbrage with that. But I agree that YouTube is changing. YouTube is not going to be around forever. And that definitely was a conscious decision behind starting the website.
Mm-hmm.
I needed to make sure that our bet was hedged. If people were going to rely on me to put food on their table,
All right.
I had to make sure that I was going to be able to do that over the long term.
Mm-hmm.
And as you know, CPMs are all over the board.
Yep.
We all dread Q1 coming. And then that's sort of the reality of the way things are going. So I understand why people are looking for alternate methods.
Mm-hmm.
Would I ever do them like Patreon or any of those? I don't know. It wouldn't be my first choice, but I can certainly understand why people do and why people go that route.
Right.
I sometimes can get a bit curmudgeon-y when people feel like they're entitled to, people should pay for a computer for them. People should pay for that kind of thing for them, because they want to see their content. There's always somebody better than you. There's always somebody hungrier than you. And that's a reality of the world. YouTube is just sort of it's an allegory or microcosm of that. That's going to do it. That hunger, and you focus on pay me, which I know is a reality for you. You get to feed your family, but
Correct.
when you lose the focus of why you're doing it, I think that becomes very apparent.
But
Right.
John, like you were talking about earlier, could you imagine going into those business meetings and presenting your business plan, and part of your business, Mike and I have talked about this a lot before.
Yeah.
And I've made this point that you could not go in and say, my business plan is to hopefully let people donate money to me on a monthly basis with no consistency. This is my plan. This is how, like you said, feed my family, feed my workers. To me, it's just the business model. If it is that, doesn't seem very sound.
No, it's mass market panhandling.
Yeah.
Is what it is. I mean, what people are doing with Patreon is the equivalent of, we'll play guitar on the subway for money. We're just playing a different instrument. There's nothing wrong with that. And YouTube is changing; those revenues are going down. It's been very fascinating to see that transition happen so fast and become so accepted.
Yeah.
Right. And I think a lot of that, and to sit there and say, it's an alternative. And I have to keep realizing to myself that it's just not a way I would go or other people would go. I get nervous because of people who don't understand it and go in and say, oh, I can do that. And you're not really getting the whole picture of how someone is doing something and why they're doing it. To sit there and say that you've built up a channel and you have all these people that are following you, and you can tell them what to do at a drop of a hat, and people are seeing that and they're being inspired by it to go out and do the same thing, when in reality it's hard enough to build a YouTube channel as it is. Now you are saying, not only am I going to build up my audience, but now I'm going to ask these people to go ahead and invest in me as a person, but I want it done faster. And I think that's that's what concerns me with that whole thing.
I can agree with that. I would never do it because I don't know how things are going to change.
Correct. That's a good point.
But but I can definitely see both sides of it. Right now I'm on the side of, I don't know if it's for us, but I will tell you to shove. And if it was, we were going to have to either shut our doors or lay people off, or I was going to have to get on camera and ask people for money, I'd get my ass on camera and ask people for money.
No, I understand.
That's the honest to God answer.
But you as a businessman would probably think about a little bit more on what those rewards would be when it comes to it, because sometimes I think they're a little silly on what people are offering, and there's really not. And what you're doing with the with pulling the veil back and being a little bit more open about where everything's coming from and kind of how your channel's working and how your site's working, which I think is far beyond what you need to do as a business. You owe me anything to tell me how you're making your money and how you're pulling it through. I can clearly see that in the content that you're doing, in the office that you're opening, and the time you're putting into giving your employees or your coworkers, I don't necessarily like to use the word employees, your coworkers, what tools you're giving them to succeed. I think it's above and beyond what you need to do, but you've always done things above and beyond. So in putting that out there and let people know.
Thank you.
Because I understand that some of it is an investment. That time on YouTube, that money spent, your time is money. So I can understand it. I don't think you need to do it because I trust you as a source to go to, and I trust you as a person. Other people may not understand that as much, but I think it's commendable what you're doing. I don't think you need to do it, but at the same time, that's your business decision to do that, and I think that's commendable to be able to pull that, because maybe other people need to see that you just can't go out and ask for the money and just be like, oh yeah, that's what I did, and just move along.
I appreciate that, and it was a very candid discussion on what we've done right, and more importantly, what we've done wrong.
Right.
And I do in a lot of ways feel that our audience is our customer. In a lot of ways, I feel like the customer has a right to know how their sausage is getting made, so to speak.
True.
The impetus behind it was that other folks will follow suit, not necessarily just YouTubers, but other websites. And I'm not going to mention names, but I have colleagues that work at some of the larger tech publications.
Correct.
And we get devices the exact same time. They're handed to us at the exact same meeting. And I see their review go up in 24 hours, citing 72 hours of battery life testing.
Right.
And citing 14 hours of playing and it's
we all know it.
It's personally, people don't care,
and that's the sad thing.
I take such umbrage with that it's a rush to be first. Listen, our content's not always the best. I know that. There's some days are better than others, but at least I can say we'll always be honest with what we're doing. And my thought that is, if instead of telling people, we do X number of page views, and you take my word for it, which a lot of people do, I'm going to show people, and I'm hoping that'll sort of start a discussion. People will ask questions. Mm-hmm. Okay, site X, you're claiming that you did this. Why won't you show me the battery screen? How long the screen was on?
Right.
That's the hope. Whether I've got diluted, visions of grandeur and changing things, like I probably do, and it's probably not going to register much on the tech scope Richter scale. But at least my audience will know that what we say is honest. Maybe, but at least people will know that we believe what we're saying, and what we're saying is true.
Right. So, how's the new office coming along? You got, I know you did the one video, and it seemed like part of it was cleaned up, and then like you came around the one end, and it was like boxes.
Yes, it is still very much like that. We're getting it set up. It's just, since it's a working office, there's not much time.
No, I can definitely understand that.
But it's good. We can film anywhere in here now. We now have LED lights that are all sort of the same temperature, which makes life way easier.
Yeah, I can understand that.
But it's been fun to have like a functional kind of studio. And if I may just give one other, and who's ever watching, one other bit of advice to folks who are looking to start a YouTube channel or start a business right now, doing this. I was really lucky. I was 98% luck YouTube early and 2% skill with it. It's a really crowded marketplace right now to try and get attention to what you're doing. You look at sort of the scope of YouTubers, and it seems to be a rush to see who can spend the most money. Do not think that you have to expend every cent that you saved or your parents have saved to buy every phone out there. I don't think that's the right way to go about it. The quality of the content and the quality of what you're saying is more important than what you're showing. And I think that message has gotten lost as cameras have gone 4K and as more phones start to come out. All my early videos were done using the iSight camera on my MacBook Pro.
Yeah.
A better camera wouldn't have changed what I was saying. So just to folks out there, bear that in mind.
Well, that's what we try to do. Larry and I talk about that often, about the idea of people ask us, "Oh, what do I need? How do I get started?" I'm like, they got a Logitech C920. It's $50 right now. You can start doing videos with that. You got an iPhone? Start using your iPhone to shoot videos. These are better than most of the market cameras that are out there that are point and shoot, and then you've got an editing device right on it. You don't need to spend any money because it comes free with it now, and that's a lot of the complacency that people get. Like you said, you got on there to spread a message. You got on there to do that, and you built your reputation because you were just really looking to better the space, as one of our friends Tomas says. He's looking to make the internet a better place, one video at a time when he does that. And that leads me into one of the biggest things you talked about in your video was your silent investor. A very, very nice, just an absolute awesome gentleman to see speak. And can you tell us a little bit about, and I know you talked about it in the video,
Sure.
But can you just tell us a little bit about our audience if they may not have seen that? Just
Like
like an abridged version.
So it's sort of part of pulling back the veil on Technobuffalo. So I mentioned when I started, I raised a little bit of money, mostly from friends and family. And I think I had sold, it was like 7% of the company or something, to friends. I got sort of very cold. Someone reached out to me to ask about investing. So I went and sort of threw his name into Google to see who he was. Turns out he was and is part of the royal family of Saudi Arabia, which was obviously a bit jarring for me. I mean? It's true. He and I spoke for, we got for about almost 9 months before we even discussed actually doing.
Right. It wasn't like you said, it was like building a relationship.
Yeah, it was, and sort of getting to know him as a person and less as just sort of a title was really important. And he believed in sort of the vision that we were doing, that we were building, he believed in Technobuffalo, and he made an investment into the company. And I can tell you, and when you see the video about us pulling back the veil, I mean, you can see on the traffic exactly the month that he came on board.
Right.
And I mean, you can see that I'm not sure we would exist, without him and his support and his network as well.
Right. No, and
you just said his network. Now maybe I don't know, but there was a question in the room also.
Sure.
But I'm just spinning that. Mike, you can get back. But
yeah, go ahead.
You're with Revision 3, right?
Correct.
That's what somebody in the room asked, and then I actually had it down too. With I consider you one of the larger channels. I mean, you, Marquez, Lou, those guys. Obviously, you were here a long time before them because they all reference you as an inspiration every time we've talked to them. But how long? Okay, let me start with this. How long have you been with the MCN, and what's the benefit that you think you get from it? Because I know there's a lot of people out there that are younger that think I have to sign, and I'm just not sure if that's the correct thing.
Reasonable question. First, with Marquez and Lewis, I have so much respect for those guys. They've done an incredible, an absolutely awe-inspiring job with what they do. Lewis's Ben video, I think, was like the 4th most viewed video of the year.
Yeah.
On all of YouTube. I mean, it's a really admirable what those guys I have done, and they are certainly inspiring me to continue to make my content better. But back to the MCN question, and that stands for sort of multi-channel network. We've been with Revision 3, which was purchased by Discovery about 2 years ago for the better part of 5 years. I know a lot of people think they have to go and sign with an MCN. What MCN can offer you is sponsors and can sort of help you create your content. And I've seen a lot of these networks also take advantage of offer lifetime contracts. So be very wary first of what you are signing. Most of them I think are out to help, but some people are definitely out only for themselves. So at least for us, what Discovery and Revision 3 have done, they've been able to give us sort of a financial, best way to describe it. As you guys will know with YouTube, the deltas are all over the board.
Yep.
You know, you could be 10, 20, whatever $1,000 difference one month to the next. Mm-hmm. And it's really hard to run a business without knowing what's gonna be coming. You can't predict. I can't offer people raises. Tough. I mean, it's really tough. So at least for us, what Revision 3 has offered us is sort of a minimum number. So at least I know I can count on that number each month.
Right.
In return, we do this sponsored videos for them. This video is brought to you by all that kind of stuff.
Right. Well, that's understandable.
So that's been really helpful, just as a sort of a larger business standpoint.
Right. No, and you're right, and I think that's equally important. Just real quick, I want to go back to is his first name Khalid, or his
yeah, it's no, his first name is Khalid.
Okay, Khalid. Was there any backlash to you investing or him investing, a foreign company investing in you, as far as that goes?
You mean like a Middle Eastern investor?
Yeah, just like having a Middle Eastern investor come in and do that, because that's a big step.
It was a very big step. That was part of he and I getting to know each other so well. Surprisingly, there wasn't.
Good. And there shouldn't be.
And he and I, talked about it, and we expected sort of the type of comments that people will say, and he and I might as well be one of those old school Benetton commercials. I mean, yeah. I'm a Jewish guy from California, and he's royalty in Saudi Arabia.
Right.
So we couldn't come from more differing backgrounds.
Right.
But sort of just being good humans is what mattered. And the reason I wanted to put him on camera is I was hoping people would see that he's more than just a title, and that he's more than just what his father is or what his family is.
I was thoroughly impressed.
That was important.
Yeah, I was thoroughly saw that. I immediately followed him on Twitter, and just read everything that he posts, that he does, and he just seems like a really nice guy, a really genuine guy.
He is a good human, and he's become actually one of my closest friends, and a guy that I have infinite respect for, and I can't imagine what it must be like being in his world, and just the way that he conducts himself and his family is, it's very inspirational.
Could you imagine? I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, go ahead. That was it.
Could you imagine for a moment what Technobuffalo, John Four Lakers would be if Khaled didn't come forward?
No. I've tried to think about it.
Right.
The best answer I can come up with is that the website would be a minute fraction, if it would even still exist, and we probably would be just a YouTube channel. And then I don't know if I'd be able to support my family and that kind of stuff. I don't know. And right. So I do think things happen for a reason. To be infinitely lucky that he and I were sort of able to connect. And it's actually a big motivation for me every day, is to be able to sort of prove to him that his faith in me wasn't misplaced. And that cool. Still sort of drives me every day.
Awesome. Larry, do you want to ask the last question?
Oh yeah. Well, I want to spin off that one just 1 second.
Oh yeah, go right ahead.
But so you keep talking about like he was an investor, and to me, I think of an investor sort of like I'm putting my money in and then I'm going to get a return on my investment. Is he more of, I don't want to say partner, but a partner? I mean, because it seems like he's been around a long time.
Partner, I think, is a much better word to describe. In fact, his Technobuffalo business cards say partner. He is, in a full respect of the word, a partner. Um, you know, he we don't have an exit plan. We've had offers to sell. Sort of my thought on it was I live a nice life now. If suddenly I had more money, my life wouldn't change. I wouldn't be able to do what I love though, on a daily basis. And it's not about just like a big ching payday. There are people that rely on me again to feed their families and that kind of stuff. So where he's in it for the long haul, however long that haul is.
Right.
That's awesome.
No, that's really cool as far as all that goes. I
Well,
mean,
everything you've described in an ideal relationship to be a partner. You know what I mean? It's not
yeah,
like you said, when you think investor, it's sort of like, here's my money. I better have my money back by this date and it better be this much on my return. So
yeah,
it's good to hear that it's more a partnership and obviously a friendship.
Yeah, and Larry, that was a very astute observation, asking him to sort of reclassify from investor to partner. I think the way you described it is a much more apt than the way I was. Yeah, he's a partner and committed to sort of the long term vision, and he lets me run the business the way I see fit. He chimes in when he has opinions, but never forces them. He and I disagree on things, but it's always sort of a mutual disagreement. Yeah, there's always respect there, and he challenges me and I challenge him, and we have been able to develop a very good relationship.
Well, I think that's why you guys continue to grow, because you have that outside person looking in, and he's if people haven't watched the video, you have to watch this 2-part video.
Yeah.
He seems like just as a tech geek as all of us are when it comes down to it. And, some people have a problem looking at people's color of their skin or their nationality and where they come from. And at the end of the day, the guy is he's just a man that loves technology. And I think that's as far as you need to look to be able to see that what he says is extremely interesting. And in my opinion, it was, it was something that I think that you deserved, to be able to expand what you're working on. And to be able to bring, more of what you do and what you love. I think your heart is in the right place to be able to do it. So sorry to keep kissing, but it's true.
I appreciate that. He's going to be at CES. So, if you guys are around, I'd love to stop by and say hello. I'm planning on filming another sort of series of videos, just talking to him. I think people will be interested.
Yeah, definitely.
So come say hi, hang out.
Well, I'm going to try to get him on the. I'm going to try to get him on the podcast next year, because I want to talk to him a little bit. And I think that would be fun.
I bet he'd be willing. He loves. I mean, he's a private guy, but he does do some stuff.
Oh, so no, I wouldn't.
Worth a shot.
Yeah, I wouldn't get into the private stuff. I would get into the tech, because you always have a different perspective of it.
I think you would.
I would have a blast with that. Well, I'll talk to him out in Vegas to do that. I think that would be cool.
Sure.
So one last question: what does the future hold for you guys for Technobuffalo? And then I can let you go.
Good question.
And the Lakers.
Oh man, that's a whole
real
other
quick. 30 seconds.
30 seconds. Go.
I want Technobuffalo to be the premier tech portal for the consumer. When people think of tech, I want them to think of Technobuffalo. I don't want them to come to us for political coverage. I don't want them to come to us to talk about hostage situations. We focus on consumer electronics, and that's our core competency. We're the voice of the consumer, and I want us to continue to be the voice of the consumer. And being independent allows us to do that.
Who covers things that aren't tech? I don't know any sites that do that. Oh.
I'm not mentioning any names. It's not geared at any site in particular. Right. It's just a general observation.
Oh, yeah.
John's driving through a tunnel.
Hey, John. What? I'm sorry. I can't hear you, John. I'm sorry. John, that's all the time we have, ladies and now, John, I want to thank you so much for giving the time that you had. We got to have you back on. And
I would love to be back on. You guys are great.
Well, thank you. I appreciate it. You and I have known each other for a long time. And, Larry is my co-host. Larry and I talk about you all the time is one of the ones that are up there, that are the most interesting ones that we want to speak with. And, we got all the questions that we wanted to get out, but we kept it short for a purpose, But we definitely want to have you back on after CES, maybe like in February or something like that. And
I would absolutely love that. You guys are great. I'd love to be on, and if we can get see if we can get Khaled on board.
I would love to have him on.
It's a fun guy to talk to. His whole perspective on things is so unlike anybody else.
Absolutely, absolutely. Well, thank you so much, Larry. Did you have anything that you wanted to close out with, and then we'll end it?
No. I'm looking forward to meeting you at CES, and thanks for being on. It's been, like I said, we've had Mike and I, when we got together, we didn't know where this was going to go, but there was a group of people that we both suggested. I didn't know Mike had relationships and pissed off so many people in the past.
I didn't piss off John.
That's what makes Mike so great, though, right?
Yes, I guess so.
You can't be successful if you don't piss people off. You can't be afraid. I
just think in his business presentation to me, he should have explained that Marquez doesn't like him, Lou doesn't. It would have maybe swayed me one way or another. No, yeah, but I'm just kidding. But,
I got each and every single one of them on the show.
Exactly, and that's what I was going to say.
I was able to bury the hatchet.
To talk to you guys, to talk to you, John. It's just, to me, it's a dream come true. I'm an older dude that's got into the space, and it's been really welcoming, and it's awesome.
Well, thank you, man. Thank you guys all for having me. It's just, I love a chance to talk to tech with fellow nerds, and I appreciate the opportunity to come on your air.
Absolutely.
Right.
And ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for joining us on the show. It's a quick hour. Mr. Rettinger has important things to do involving a sick wife and a child, and I know exactly how it is, and I think Larry knows exactly how that is.
Yes.
So we're going to wrap it up here. Again, episode 19, I think, was an absolute blast. Again, John, thank you so much for coming on. We'll definitely have you on again in the very near future. Maybe a specific topic to do that. Now
guys.
Now that we've got the interview out of the way. So, everyone, thank you so much for joining the Unfiltered podcast. We will see you guys in the next one.
Peace.